Have you ever been in a relationship where the sex is great at the start, but after about 6 months, it falls off an edge, falls off the cliff, and you realize that you didn't really like the person in the first place? Jen Hamilton, Cass, welcome to Intuitions and Orgasms. How are you?
We're amazing. We are so excited to be here and dive into this topic because, as most people know, like we do a long distance relationship. So I live in Brisbane, Cass lives in Perth. We're 4,500 kilometers away from each other. So we don't have access to a sex life that can mask our stuff.
Well, quite often, you meet somebody, the energy's up, the hormones are going, you're liking the pet, you've got your best foot forward, you're putting on a certain mask to get them to like you and all that kind of good stuff. And then you realize that after the sex starts to drop off and that starts to go away and it gets to be, not what it was at the start, you soon realize that we don't really have as much in common as we used to. Or do we actually even have anything in common at all? Was it just sex? And
Did I actually like this person, or was it just because I was like orgasming a lot and I felt really good having all that dopamine and serotonin pumped into me?
So how do we avoid that? And what are the pitfalls of doing something like that?
Well, first of all, we get to the other end of developing a sexual relationship, one that started so rapidly. And then as that tapers off and those hormones start to fade a little bit and we really want something more, we start to question and we go, who is this person? And why was I even attracted to them? There's been many cases like that. And, quite often it all stems from the fact we never got to know them. We didn't communicate and we didn't even understand whether they had the same values as us. They liked the same things as us. We didn't know anything about them. But what we did know is they made us feel really good at that time. And that's really great for me if that's all you're after and that's something really short term. But it's definitely not a healthy way to establish a relationship long term.
I think also like people aren't generally speaking into what they want in a relationship and what they value in relationship, what they see long term from the get-go. Now, we've spoken so much about this disposable mentality that is dating apps in the dating world these days. And so everybody's swiping on each other, everybody's out there having sex. Sometimes people end up in a relationship, but no one's actually talking about, in the early days, they don't want to look like a stage 5 clinger. They don't want to look too needy. They don't want to bring, forward too early. Hey, what are you actually in this game for? And so people go on.
I'd vote for Trump. That could be something. Right. No offense to Trump supporters, but or it could be that I like Anthony Albanese, and that's something that everyone's got their own thing, right? Or I vote Greens. I don't know, whatever it is, right?
Everyone's got their own kink, Greg.
They've got skeletons in the closet somewhere, right?
Yeah, people aren't talking about their persuasions enough these days. But this is what we're seeing is that everyone's, on the dating apps, everyone's, hooking up because everyone wants to feel something. Everyone's chasing instant gratification. And then if people are hanging out, they realize, okay, sexually, we are highly compatible. Everything like fits in really well together. We've got a great schedule going. It feels really good. We're both into the same things. Let's do more of that. And conversations aren't being had about what it actually is that the person wants, or the people, participating in this, what they actually want from this dynamic. And then people end up going, oh, well, we've been, doing this for a little while. Sometimes there's pressure put on going, well, are we in a relationship now? Is this a thing? Are you seeing other people, or are we like, I want exclusivity because safety equals certainty for a lot of people. And so people aren't having conversations. We're not seeing traditional relationship values like we did, 50, 60, 70 years ago. It's completely changing now. And it's great that people feel as though they've got choice and they've got a voice and they can, make decisions and they can shift in and out of relationships if they do feel wildly uncomfortable, and no one's kind of sticking around anymore. So we've just got this kind of a big puddle of mess that everyone's in, don't we?
Well, and you got even the other part where you end up in a 6-month sexual relationship and the guy goes, I was never interested in a long-term relationship. I thought it was just casual. I was enjoying the casual part. Why all the pressure all of a sudden? Why the pressure to, become exclusive? I was enjoying this.
Yeah, it's because, and I think, I think there's so many people really deeply desiring, connection, to be chosen, especially as a woman. I'll speak into this from a female perspective. To be chosen by a man, to be in a relationship, like that feels really good. To be their number one, to be the person that they want to, explore and, potentially spend a life with them.
Yeah.
That feels really nice. And it feels good. And so many women want that. And so many, there's so many men sort of out there going, but I can have all of these different women. I can have one on every different night of the week if I want to, because Tinder says so. I have options. I can swipe. I don't have to commit anymore. And it does go back, I'm not just, being completely sexist here. Like, it does go both ways as well. But because we have, so much accessible sex and dates and everything, no one's really getting together for the right reason. So just because people might be doing even exclusivity these days means different things to people. It's like they might be having sex with one person but still dating other people, and so there's this I guess there's this mentality of like, are you single, or does someone think that you're in a relationship with them? Like, you kind of got to pre-quiz them differently these days.
Does sex mask red flags?
Absolutely, it does. People dive into sex very quickly in relationships, I would say, these days. And this is well before getting to know someone on a really deep, intimate level. And I think sex is almost had, or, we can say the words given away, because you don't want to lose that person. You don't want to be called frigid. You don't want to be sort of like left behind because you're not the one that's, giving them sex when someone else can be. And I feel as though jumping into it so quickly, you're not establishing boundaries. You're not establishing, where it is, values, everything that you want from the relationship, where you want it to go, and what your non-negotiables are in this. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been part of those relationships in the past, some time ago. There's no denying that. And, I can think of several occasions and equally playing my part in both of those roles in the past. And that gets pretty tiring because it's exhausting. And all the while, I think at the end of the day, we're just after like a loving companionship of union. And there seems to be this fear of committing to anyone at any particular time. Like I've been in relationships with people, and it was established that this is casual, this is casual, this is casual, and it was led to be casual because that's what I wanted at the time. But for that person, say for example, it was never to be casual. But for her, she felt that if I project it as something casual, he'll be interested in me. Therefore, we'll build a relationship upon it. And it was just, it's like it was going to fail from the beginning, because then eventually it's forward, no, this is a relationship. This is what I wanted. I'm like, well, this is not the pretense we started on. So how do we end up here?
Yeah. And like you said in the last podcast, we talked about the best thing about your long distance relationship is the fact that because of the lack of physical intimacy, you have to establish certain criteria and certain bonds and certain communication styles because you had to.
Yeah, in order for our relationship.
4,500 kilometers between you two. You couldn't just get in the car and drive there. It would taking you 10 days, right? So, and by that time you were too tired to even have sex. But so, right? And that's the thing, is that you guys have had to build that because of the style of your relationship, but that doesn't happen these days.
No, and this is such a blessing about our really special dynamic that we have doing this long distance, is that we don't have a choice when we're at home, when Cass is in Perth and when I'm in Brisbane and we are apart. We can't just if there's any sort of like conflict or rupture in our relationship, we can't just like screw it out. Like, we can't just have makeup sex to get over it. We have to, resolve our stuff through those channels of communication, and that includes vulnerability. That includes being very open, because it like the amount of effort that goes into our relationship to make this work, because we both want it and because we're both on the same page about what it is that we want to build together.
So how does, because I've not a friend and acquaintance through somebody else. He was in a new relationship, and we said to him, mate, you're ignoring every single red flag purely for sex. Like, you're ignoring the whole lot because he hadn't had it for a long time, and all of a sudden he's getting a hell of a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hasn't spoken to us since, right? Even although the relationship he was in, they went into, has broken down, as we, didn't need to be Nostradamus to predict that one coming, right? But we will tend to sit there and kind of go, oh, that's okay. That behavior's to the side, because, like you said, all this other stuff's happening and it feels great. It feels so good. And we're getting these, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, like you said, the endorphins, all that kind of really good stuff we're addicted to. And we're having a lot of it. But that tends to create an illusion, or create a sort of a view of somebody that's not necessarily real, because the real you will actually come out eventually when the sex does dry up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that description there, Greg, to me it sounds like if someone's willing to overlook those things, then it's often reflective to their own self-worth in that. So if you have a lower self-worth and then someone all of a sudden is giving you all this attention and you're feeling great through this sexual interaction, well, it's like fulfilling a false desire in you. It's not really ticking the box of what you truly need within your core and within your heart. But at that time, it feels that way. So within all those hormones rushing through your body, it seems like we're willing to overlook those things in that very moment. And usually we come crashing out the other side of it.
It's like having a diet of sugar, right? So if you want to live on lollies and junk food, and if you want to put that into your body, it tastes great, right? But there is no nutrition and no substance to it. So you're going to end up feeling like shit after a while, and it's probably going to give you cancer. So eat your meat and veggies.
Because you do have that, we're all primal beings, right? We have this biological part of us that's millions of thousands, depending on what you believe in, so many years old, that we have these primal desires based on basic biology, which is, I see a good looking girl, I want to sleep with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is very hard to fight sometimes, because, as you know, once that kicks into the limbic system in the brain, our ability to make a conscious choice at that moment doesn't really stand a chance. We're going, he's a firefighter, he's got his shirt off, I will do anything to get towards him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is that your thing, Greg? The firefighters? There's no judgment here. Okay. Yeah, look, I totally understand that, and we've spoken about this before. It's very different. Like, the desire that women have is very different from the desire that men have. So men are very physical beings, women are very emotional beings. At the end of the day, we have to look at what sex provides us. Sex provides us with a deep connection. It's intimacy. It's feeling seen. It's feeling heard. It's physical touch. It's sensual because it's working with all of our senses. And so
you've hit it.
Yes. Yeah. And so by connecting with someone and feeling something, by experiencing connection with another person, it's fulfilling something that you might not be able to access within yourself. And it's going, well, this is what I need, more of that, please, at the cost of whatever it is.
You hit the nail on the head. Are we substituting sex for conversation?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We are using sex as a means to communicate, and that's our only means of communication. Mm-hmm. Because you'll soon find is that when you're not having sex, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly that. Yeah.
And when you're in a new relationship, yes, the sex is up, but quite often that, because you're having so much of it, it is, you're substituting that exactly what you're trying to explain, what we're explaining there, Jen. You're substituting those kind of feelings and those kind of connections for, or mistaking it for what's really true about a relationship, which is the deeper sense of, you know, a human to human connection that's more than just physical.
Yeah. Like, I really acknowledge that, Greg. It's so true. I think on my path and journey, I really acknowledge within myself, like what we call in Tantra and the esoteric teachings, like of our lower nature and personality. And so I guess for me, I became a witness and watchful of those desires that evoke within me. And so once I can witness them and identify like where they come up and how they come up, I get to choose then and acknowledge what I choose to act on and what's on the other side of that. And I think that was something that was quite empowering for me at that same time. And when I look at, or we talk about our soul's evolution or what we need to grow and evolve, it's absolutely not, and not for me anyway, just to be chasing tail around a paddock trying to hump everything that exists. Like, that is not what I want to be doing at all, because there just seems to be no evolution in that for me. Not at this stage of my life at all. I guess for some, it's a process. It's a process people have to go to identify what they truly want and they truly need. But at the end of the day, being a witness to it, I find, is a really powerful thing, and understanding why.
Is there a difference between what men experience and women experience in this, you know, once that sex drops off? Because as you said before, men tend to be more visual, women tend to be more emotional, which we will talk about in another podcast, because men are emotional, women are emotional. It's just activated differently in the brain. So, but does it impact women a lot more than men? Or have you seen it actually, you know, about 50-50?
Yeah, so speaking from a woman's perspective, so when a man wants to have sex with a woman, she feels chosen, she feels desired, she feels sexy, she feels like she means something to him. Okay, so we put a lot of meaning on, being sexually attractive to someone. When that dries up, like when that's not there, when we don't feel chosen, we feel abandoned. And
Is it also about the fact that you feel like they were just using you for a physical body, that you were just a vessel?
Absolutely. Yeah, that you were just that you were essentially a piece of meat, that you were just being used just to have sex with. If we also look at our culture, Greg, especially in the West, is that so often when people are dating, what do? They go out for, it could be lunch or dinner, but do you want to drink? Let's have a couple of drinks, right? Let's take the edge off and have a drink. Now, what happens when we drink, right? Everyone gets horny when they drink. We release inhibitions. We feel we feel we feel this sense of like this like openness, this connection, like I want more. Like you release all the stuff that you were holding on to, and like you loosen up a little bit and you have a bit more fun, and you want to talk about the things, you're more open. Perhaps your funniest side or your quirky side comes out. And so when that comes out, it's like when then you have sex in that way, what you're doing is you're building this sense of, I can only have sex with this person if we have a few drinks. Or if if you're in a relationship, life gets on top of you, things get busy. Oh, let's have a couple of drinks. And that's the only time that you're finding that you're having sex. You've got a problem if alcohol is the catalyst for you guys experiencing intimacy.
Yeah. And it's a, because people are going to sort of say, oh, no, that's not me, or that's never happened, or, our relationship's different. If the sex, starts to dry up, then, we will tend to be okay. Well, if that's the case, like these guys are doing, don't have sex for 6 weeks and see what happens then.
And choosing it consciously, not just because one person doesn't want to, or one person's withholding it, using it against the other person. It
Yeah,
gets
not
to be a
weaponize
conscious
it.
decision. Yeah, like it
Yeah.
gets to be a conscious decision to say, well, if we still experience intimacy without intercourse, what does that mean? If we are still connected, if we're going on dates, or we're spending time together, or we're deeply working on the relationship, but we're just taking intercourse out, what does that look like then?
It's a bit like a dry July, or you're going on a water fast or something like that, right? It's
Dry July.
but that's not necessarily such a bad idea, because having that, forcing yourself, and Cash, you can talk about saving your semen and all that kind of stuff, and what the benefits of that stuff is. But having sort of these periods in time where you together, not weaponizing, like you said, that you consciously make a pact to go, for the next month, we're not going to have intercourse at all. We're going to have real intimacy, real communication, and we're going to see how strong our bond is. That's a very powerful tool.
Mm.
Oh, absolutely. It gets put to the ultimate test. And it's one thing that I really bless this relationship for. And I've acknowledged that from the very beginning. And it's the depth of vulnerability and level of intimacy that has been achieved through not having physical contact is unlike anything I've ever experienced before. And for Jen and I, I guess it's allowed us to evolve in leaps and bounds in imparting this and supporting other people along this path and this journey at exactly the same time. Like, the reward on the other end of that is just enormous. And it's what this is the whole way along, is building a solid foundation. Like, if we keep dipping our toe in and we have a few vulnerable conversations here and there, then we have sex, and then we have a couple of conversations, and like, this is sort of next level here. The depth of communication and honesty and truth and expression of voice on all these levels becomes the ultimate thing in intimacy and vulnerability and building the foundation, which at core is what deeply keeps us connected.
And that's what makes the sex better as well,
Yeah.
is that, like, that connection, that vulnerability, like all of those parts, that's what heightens the sexual experience.
I think you guys might be onto something here. This could be like, literally have a month consciously where you commit to each other, where you choose not to have sex, but you choose to have intimacy and communication and go to those places of depth with a real intention.
Yeah, and if there's conflict, don't just reach for make-up sex just for the sake of it, because, make-up sex, a lot of people say like how good angry sex is or make-up sex is, and this can be really dangerous territory, as we've spoken about before, because when you rely on conflict in order to have the best sex possible, you subconsciously and even consciously move towards conflict in order to have better orgasms, which is not what sex is there for.
Yeah, because what you're really breeding here is a level of intimacy and a level of communication that's remarkably deep. And when you get to that point, what does the other person feel if you're connected with them without the sex?
For me?
Yeah.
It's like it's being like wrapped up in a warm blanket of soul connection. It's the feeling of being deeply seen, heard, and understood. And in those moments, like they always bring tears to my eyes in those moments.
Yeah.
That sort of feeling. And that goes beyond the sexual experience. It's beyond anything else. And it's the hug that you've been seeking, like your whole soul being hugged. And for me, that is true, deep, intimate connection. And that's achievable for every one of us. But sometimes, and I love this dry July, actually, this could really work. This could really take off. I can see this happening.
You're onto something, because it the powerful thing is if you intentionally go out there and say, for this month, we're not going to have sex, with the intent and purpose to talk to my partner, to sit with your partner, to make them feel, like you said, seen, heard, understood, presence, connection. The amount of relationships that would be turned around in that month would be remarkable.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the lack of those things, which are the very things that fracture a relationship and make it so fragile because people's needs just absolutely not getting met. And there's so many reasons for why they're not getting met. But the main thing is communication and their lack of. So once we can reignite the level of communication and rebuild intimacy, there's no reason for the relationship to dissolve because they're the very core things that we all desire within.
So what are the pitfalls, Jen, with somebody who's actually, you jump in the relationship, you're having sex after the third time you meet each other and you're in that place, but then it sort of, you do find out that that person is not who you think they are.
It's a real awkward conversation. It's like that's where the truth has to come forward. Or you can choose truth or you can choose self-abandonment. Right? Because you either
you've given a part of yourself to this person. You've given a part of your soul or part of your energy to somebody purely based on, certain, specifics. And then you're going, actually, I don't really like this person.
Or I just don't feel as connected as we did in the beginning. And so like it happens. Like, understand that it happens and that it's an experience to have, but don't let it become a pattern that repeats over and over again. Like, if it happens, cool, break it off, deal with it, heal through it, feel it, do whatever you have to do. Don't fuck around and do the same thing in the next relationship as well. Because if you keep doing that and you're creating a pattern, you've got a big fucking problem.
So why do people seek, that instant gratification or that sexual experience rather than going, hey, let's just get to know each other?
Because it feels good physically, because everybody's so stressed, everybody's so wound up, everyone's just got so much on, and it's like sex helps to relieve that tension that people are feeling. It helps takes the edge off. It helps just chill out and have some fun a little bit. The power of orgasm, like what orgasm can do to the body to take you to new heights, to altered states of awareness, if you want. Going into those places, feeling good, takes you out of your current reality of stress. And because everyone's so heightened in stress, everyone's just chasing what feels good. And when we're only doing it for that reason, consciously or subconsciously, we're going to get stuck into it. When we look at, really what sex is all about, whether it's about connection or procreation or making love to someone, if you're doing it with a whole bunch of people, it's out of, divine union, out of connection, whatever, it becomes really unfulfilling. And it's almost like a drug where you're then constantly looking for that next high. If you're having sex with someone over and over again and you're doing traditional missionary style and it's really boring, you're going to be looking for things that take you to the next level. And so whether that's with someone else, it's like, I've got to chase that new level of high because I'm bored in life. Where can this take me? And so checking in with, like, what is it that you're actually seeking from having sex, either with one person or, multiple partners as well? What is it that you want from it?
Is it, like you said before, also a bit of, well, if I don't do this, she's going to do that?
As in they're going to go elsewhere?
Yeah. If I don't do this, then the girl next to me, she's going to put out to him. So why I've got to do this now, because if I don't do it, he's just going to go to the next person next to me because I know she's going to put out.
Absolutely. Years ago, I was seeing a guy, and all of us, like, we went out for dinner and we'd been seeing each other for a bit, and I thought he was staying the night. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I have to go. Once we got back from dinner, I'm like, oh, okay. Is everything okay? He's like, yeah, I've got to go. And I spoke to another male friend about this, and he goes, guaranteed someone messaged him and offered him anal and he was out the door. And I was like, no. And he's like, 100% that's what it was. And I was like, is this what this is like? And I was on hiatus after that. I'm like, I'm not playing this game. I'm not doing the dating thing. I'm not doing this. Like, it's just, it unfortunately, for so many people, that's how it is. It's like you're in competition with other people. You're in competition with other people on dating apps. You know, this disposable mentality exists, and it's disgusting.
So, what are some of the other pitfalls that happen if you're masking conversation with sex? You know, what are some of the other things that could go wrong for people in those early stages of relationship if you are, you know, masking real connection or mistaking real connection for sexual connection?
Oh, I think there's lack of conversation to get to know someone. You know, to understand how they be in certain ways of life. You know, so there was someone that I was seeing, you know, a couple of years ago, and everything was sort of, you know, going fairly well, but you know, he had failed to mention that he was on antidepressants, right, until we were a few months in. And that was a big deal to me, because I'm like, look, there's, you know, nothing against people that want to be on antidepressants or need to be, but there was a big incongruence between who he actually was and who he was presenting as to me. And I didn't give it the opportunity to get to know this person, or get to know what's actually going on for this person, and communicate with them and understand who they were before diving into intimacy. And so that was a really, really big deal for me. You know, there's so many, like, there's so much communication that can happen outside of intimacy before you even get to intimacy. So it's about learning about values. I know people that they hook up, and then for the first few weeks of hooking up, one of them's got kids and the other person doesn't even know about that. And that could be a deal breaker, you know?
Mm.
What else would you say to that?
I know all I've got coming through at the moment is celibacy. Like I just
I was going to ask Cass, do men manipulate that, like you said before, like, do they manipulate the conversation to make women think that they're going to get one thing, but they're getting something different?
100%, Greg. 100%. 100%. You see it so often. And, you know, it really makes me sick to see, because you'll find a woman will predominantly wear a heart on a sleeve. And she can be quite open of what she desires. And so often the man will tell her exactly what she wants to hear or what he believes to get her in the sack. And then he leaves next morning, cuts her off, has nothing to do with her again. And it's just so damaging. And it just happens over and over and over. It's such a destructive cycle. And men, particularly, it's like they're completely detached from their own actions when they're doing it. It's like they have no empathy, compassion, or understanding for what it's like on the woman on the other end. And that's what I've really seen in Tantra. You know, you can't not see that. The more women you work with or have these conversations with, majority carry there's some level of sexual trauma, and it's in relation to many of those situations. And that situation can be one of the best. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's a lot darker than that, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. So modern society probably has driven this, because years ago we would meet most of our life partners either through a church group, some kind of other group, a sporting group, or work, right? There was basically, you know, very rarely did you find it, you know, through a pub or something like that. It was mostly through, you know, your sporting groups, your church groups, or your work situation, and that's how most people married, right? So, you know, what happened in those situations is, and you mentioned this, I think, in the last podcast, about you build values first. You get to know the people from a value perspective first, and then you get to be friends, and then you get to become lovers, right? You don't actually just meet them day one and go, hey, let's get it on, right? Because you're doing things there that, you know, that you're there for other reasons. You're there for work, you're there for sport, you're there for, you know, spiritual practices, right? Unless you're into the spiritual practice of these days, where it's all just love and fucking. Anyway, so we've taken that away from people these days. And we've substituted it with an online app that says swipe right if you want to just
Hook up.
hook up.
Yeah,
And,
it's
and
really sad.
yeah, and so you don't have these people now having these connections through other means. That's, building a connection based on similarities or values or ethics or bonds, that you have things where you can actually have talk and conversation about. So where I see people is that, yes, you might be physically attracted to them. Yes, you might be able to bounce a 20-cent piece off his stomach. It's that fucking rock hard, right? You might be able to go, she's so hot, it's not funny. And the reality of the situation is that once that's finished, you really don't have much of a conversation, because you know nothing about their background, their values, what they like, what they don't like. You've just gone, see, and then all of a sudden you're going, well, that felt good. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And then, like you said, Cass, before, it's like, are we in a relationship? Oh, maybe. It's good. It's working. But you're not there. You're there because of the sexual connection. You're not there because of the deeper communication, the intimacy, and all that kind of stuff. So I think you guys are onto something. I think you've onto something very powerful. The dry July for sex. It could catch on.
Yeah, it's all about, like, it really is all about building connection first. And, Cass and I, when we first connected in person, so we spoke for a few days via, just voice notes. And then Cass flew over to Brisbane to meet me. And we didn't spend the first night together. Cass booked accommodation for himself for the time that he planned on being here. We did spend a night together, and we said, look, we both agreed we didn't want intimacy from the get-go, because we didn't want that to come in between the connection that we were building, that we didn't want to rush into anything. Neither of us wanted to feel obliged to just, jump into bed together. Like, the connection was strong. Like, it was definitely there. There was definitely chemistry between us, but we really wanted to honor the fact that we created these boundaries. And it was really important for us to know that, we both verbalized our boundaries, and that we respected each other's boundaries as well, because that meant that we could honor each other's boundaries moving forward. Because if we can get to a point where we want to rip each other's clothes off, but we say that we're not going to, and we can respect that, then we can get through anything.
Yeah, like I remember, I thought to myself, if I end up staying the night here at Jen's place and we shared a bed, this is going to be really awkward for me, because I'm going to have to deny this woman if she wants to have sex with me. I have to really. I was firm. My mind was made up before I got on the plane, and I said to myself, I am done in relationships so go into sex early, because I feel it masks so much connection. And it just, you become influenced by all these hormones and all these dopamine. And I went, this time, definitely nothing like that.
Yeah, and I said to myself as well, I'm not doing that. I'm not showing this person that, like, because I deeply cared about him. I don't want him to think that I'm just a slut as well. Do you know what I mean? That I just want to jump into bed with anyone as well. And so we were already thinking that we didn't want to be intimate before we even met in person. We'd kind of like preempted, like, no, the sacred no. And so then when it came time to do you want to stay tonight, but we don't want to have sex, it was like, oh, like, thank God, because, like, we found out we were both on the same page. So we were able to share a bed. We were able to I think, we hugged, we cuddled through the night. But it was so nice to know that like, there was no like that we could stop. Yeah, that there was no going any further, or having this awkward conversation, or pushing each other's boundaries, or trying to take away the other person's sacred no as well. Because when you start to push someone past their boundaries, you're setting yourself up for absolute disaster. Because if it happens once, it happens all the time. And that is, like, to start off on that foot is really shitty.
And you're right, it is a pattern. Once you start getting into that world of, well, this is just what happens now, then all of a sudden, you continue to date in this world, and the expectation is that you put out in the first night, and that becomes, okay, well, this is just what happens, and it becomes your norm, right? But in the end, it's a piece of you that's dying every single time that happens. But that and no one sees that. There's a part of you that's got shame, part of you that's got guilt. It's a part of you that hates you, that every single time that nobody's, and you can mask it, right? This is the thing. That's what I don't like about the feminist movement, right? About, women's empowerment, that it's my body, my choice. If I want to have sex on the first date, I bloody well can, right?
Mm.
But it takes a part of you.
It does. You when we look at like entanglement and what happens energy wise when you connect with someone sexually, not only are you entangling with their energy, all their previous sexual partners that they've got entangled energy, you're taking that on board, and likewise them with you. And so if you're not practicing any form of hygiene, like I'm talking energetic and spiritual hygiene here, there's just energy floating around, like you are taking on their stuff. If someone is going inside you, or you're going inside of someone, you're entangling with that person, and people don't understand the repercussions of this.
I don't know if this is, you've experienced this, Cass, but this was definitely around when I was younger, when I was a young dog, 30 odd years ago. We, and especially amongst my group of mates, and as crude as this sounds, horribly crude, I think you probably know where I'm going with this, is that we used to say, if she sleeps with you on the first night, she's not marriage material.
Yeah, that's, I think guys that are looking for a relationship, genuinely looking for a relationship, that's the kind of thing they would say.
They respect.
Yeah. No
You're
respect.
going to get away in the first night.
Yeah. And they tend not to respect her. If it moves into a relationship, it's like they never have respect for that woman at the start, and it just peters off.
And this sounds bad. Like this is quite, because there's some manipulation going on here, because guys would actually test women. They would actually test them to go, will you go through with this? Because we want to see if you reject us. Yeah. Because on a value scale, from a, like, we're rating you at this point. We're going, right, we're really interested in this person. Are they worth where I want to take this? Because if I'm a type of person who wants to look for a relationship, not a hookup, right? If I'm looking for a partner, I'm looking for a relationship, I'm looking for someone to spend some time with, maybe have a family with, and all that kind of stuff, right? I've got an idea about what I want to look for. A guy will test that. And a guy with that intention will go, if she puts out in the first night, she's not marriage material. And we will push every button inside of you to see, because what we want you to do is we want you to reject us. Yeah. We want you to say, no, this is not happening. We go, thank you very much. I now know you're worthy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's people are going to yell at us for doing this. They're going to say, Greg, you're a dick. You're a fucking misogynist pig again, the 800th time, right? But no, this is what happens. Men will test women, especially men in their 30s who are looking to settle down and have children. They will on purpose test you to see, because they want you to reject them, because they're the ones they marry. If you put out in the first night, they're not marrying you.
Yeah, well, categorize me as the same as you, Greg, but I tend to agree. And it aligns with all things in this world. If we're given something without having to work for it, to truly pursue it and try hard to achieve that, we'll never appreciate it.
Never
at all.
Yeah, you can't make a housewife out of a hoe. It's the old saying.
Yeah, and if that's the case, and it sounds archaic, and not with the times these days. And it's like, again, it's our body, our choice. We can choose what we want to do. If we want to have multiple partners, it's our choice to do that. It's all about sexual liberation these days, or having multiple partners and calling it monogamy. Who knows, right? So, but it comes down to, there are fundamental psychological things behind this, right? A guy in his 30s who's looking to marry, settle down, and have a wife and kids, they're looking for a certain type of person.
It's a guy in his 50s as well. Doesn't stop at 30s. Absolutely. Yeah. I think on that though, like if we look at, where traditional families and marriage was 50 years ago, where this empowered movement of like the rise of feminists going, my body, my choice, let me fuck them all, because we've experienced polarity and duality in this, I think we get to finally come full circle and go, that's not actually working anymore. So we've dipped our toe into like my body, my choice. Let me fuck them all. Like, where has it got us? Absolutely nowhere. Was that it actually empowering? No, it was not. I think you'll find a lot of people, like there's so many people who will openly say, I'm not doing dating apps anymore. It's like it is just, it's had its time, it's had its space. And people are over it because people are so sick of that disposable mentality. People are wanting like the trad wife lifestyle now. You know, we saw it on Maths. We saw it with Lauren on Maths, and we spoke about this in one of the episodes. Like she was so like, this is how it's going to be. And everyone laughed at her, but she had a really, really strong value around this is how I'm going to be treated. And this is what my standards are. And sure, she may have left the show without a husband because she was just a fucking bitch, but none of the other relationships worked out. In fact, there was plenty of other swaps after the show had ended, and like also, and it's like, are we done with that yet? Like, can we not see that we can come full circle? And like, this is where I guess, you know, the three of us sitting here, we sit in a space of monogamy, sacred union within our relationships, but we're fucking happy. Like we're onto something here because we have decided that actually this works. This feels really good. This is the dynamic that we have chosen to be in. No one's upset. No one's feeling miscommunicated with. No one's not having sex here. No one's withholding stuff. No one's feeling slutty. No one's doing the walk of shame. No one's feeling as though, oh, he's just sexualizing me and subjectifying me. Like all of that we're not feeling that way because we're in our traditional-ish style relationships. Like your relationship with your wife is very different to ours, yet it's still you know, monogamous, sacred union. We've decided to be in union that works together to grow and evolve together, not sleep around with multiple people and call it empowerment.
I mean, it's a trap. Like, and you see, like the divorce rates are at 50-odd% because there is a lack of that depth of communication. Like I said before, having a month off, you guys are onto something there, because it's really important that having that time off does give you perspective of how you guys do communicate without that being part of it. And you can just take the way of, okay, this month we're just literally we're consciously choosing, and you'll find that consciously taking it off the table creates desire, creates polarity, creates tension, right? Which creates, it's the 30th of the month. We've got one more day to go. I'm going to burst in about 3 hours, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Because you've built that tension, because you've built a connection that it has depth.
And it's not about, like we said, it's not about withholding sex and being like, yes, I get a month off. It is exploring that deep level of intimacy without just having sex, or maybe having conflict in the relationship, and instead of making up with sex, what else can you do instead of that? What can you go to instead of that? Because like when you mask with sex, when you're just using it as sex, you're not really connecting with sex for what it's to be, and that is to bring you closer together in union.
Perfect way to end it, Jen. So Cass, thank you for bringing your words of wisdom into this. I think it's important that you can see someone of your caliber and your ethics and the level that both of you guys are involved in now. Like you said, that you're doing some pretty advanced, not only sex therapy, but esoteric stuff that combines it all. And it's very powerful what you get to share on your message, and the people you do help, that helps create that dynamic. So well done, you two.
Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Where can they find us, Jen?
They can find us on Instagram, Intuition.
Where can they find us? Cass, you should be used to this by now.
Yeah. We're on
Where
Intuition.
can they find us, Jen?
Intuition Orgasms Podcast on Instagram, and you can leave us comments on our Spotify channel. We love hearing from you guys.